I work for a management company, and about once a year we hold general meetings with tenants, a separate one for each house. I just got here, and this year they put me in charge of the meetings. I figured out the dates, printed the notices, went around to the houses in my area, posted them. I decided to start with the fourth house on Morozov Street, and, of course, when I arrived in the yard at the appointed time, there were only a few people waiting for me. One of the women advised me to go through the apartments. Maybe not everyone had seen the ad. And so I did, especially since there were only 3 entrances to that house. In one of the apartments, as I knew, lived a crazy old woman. The neighbors often complained about her. She often complained about her noise and unpleasant smells. But I couldn't help it, so I had to ring her doorbell as well. There was silence in the apartment for a few seconds, and then I heard shuffling footsteps, and from behind the door someone asked,
"Who are you?"
I rambled on about the residents' meeting, and was about to move on, when I heard the question again.
"Who are you?"
The voice was senile, squeaky, angry. I repeated that there was a meeting downstairs, and the answer was again,
"Who are you?"
I introduced myself. And again,
"Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?"
the woman at the door screamed. I could hear something falling. I didn't wait for her to calm down and went downstairs. The noise was also heard in the courtyard, and it was a great disturbance to the meeting. Then another woman came out of the porch, came up to us, and addressed one of the pensioners. "Maria Mikhailovna woke up, we have to go." The tenants, having heard this, became gloomy and began to disperse. One of the men advised me to leave too. "No one will come today, we'll discuss it another time." I looked up at the window of the apartment, where the noise was coming from, and noticed that the curtain had been pulled. My interlocutor noticed it too, and said with a sudden anger,
"They should have put her in an insane asylum a long time ago. This old woman is spoiling the whole house."
A few days later I held a meeting in a neighbor's yard. After chatting with the tenants, I was on my way back to the office, and it just so happened that I was passing by that very same porch. And on its porch, the lid of a coffin. And the tenants were standing around the porch. I went up to them and asked who had died.
"Stepan. He was tall and young, about 40 years old. You saw him at the meeting."
I froze. It was the same man who had complained to me about the old woman. A few more days passed. It was evening, and I was already back home waiting for my wife. She rushed into the apartment later than usual, immediately locked the door and stared through the peephole. I asked her what happened. It turned out that at the bus stop an older woman had been picking on her. Grabbed her by the bag, by the sleeves. My wife struggled, but the old woman clung to her, followed her, mumbling something. So, together they walked all the way to her house. In the end the wife was already running, but the old woman saw in which she entered the doorway. Then a noise was heard outside, a knock on our door, and I heard the already familiar angry voice.
"Who are you?"
The old woman knocked and rang at every door on the landing until our neighbor came out and kicked her out. At night his wife came to us, all in tears. In the evening our neighbor got sick, and in the night he died. The ambulance didn't even make it there in time. When the neighbor left, I noticed that the wife was very frightened, pale, even her face changed with fear.
"Honey, what did that old woman tell you?"
I asked her, and in response I heard some nonsense.
"I know who woke me up. It was your hubby. I had a hubby too, but he didn't live long. I buried him, and before that I drank blood. And your hubby, I'm going to drink all of him, eat him, tear him to pieces."
She was talking faster and louder. She was hysterical, and I shook her by the shoulders, shouting for her to stop. My wife shut up, blinked, stared at me, not recognizing me, and asked in an angry voice.
Who are you?